what's happening now in the States and in the United Kingdom. Remember, the diaspora, this time around, more Kenyans in the diaspora given a chance to vote. Bearing in mind, I believe in 2017, you could vote in about 8 countries. This time, it's 12. And so we're going to be speaking with Professor David Monda. He's in the United States, in New York, I believe, is where he is at the moment. And I know he had a chance to vote today, so we'll be speaking with him. We'll also be speaking to a team in the United Kingdom. Lucas Kamau, the chair of the Kenya Community Council, a lawyer, Esther Tiras, and Tyrus Jenga, who's a businessman as well, and Janet Wainaina, who's also in the United Kingdom. But Prof Monda, let me start with you. First of all, what time is it where you are and how are you? All right, I can't hear you. I think you need to unmute, and then we can take that over again.
I just did.
Please proceed.
I just did. Can you hear? Okay, great. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay, great. Yeah, so I'm actually in Nairobi, Kenya, right here with you. I flew in from New York. And the reason I did that is quintessentially because I did not want to be disenfranchised. If I stayed in New York, I could only vote for president. But I wanted to vote for my governor. I wanted to vote for my senator, for my MP, for my women's rep, and also for my MCA. So I think this is a fundamental problem that diasporans have. And this is part of the reason, among others, on visiting family and coming to the great country of Kenya, that I really wanted to be right here on the ground. In terms of my voting experience, I voted here in Ngong, and it was a very smooth process. I went to the IEBC portal, punched in my name, it dropped out verified that I was on the register, and it showed what voting stream I was in. So when I went to the voting center, it was, very easy to go to the exact polling booth. The ballots were handed to me, all color-coded. I just had to check off. So it took me about 2 minutes to get the whole process done. But I think for the diasporans, it's an ongoing challenge in terms of not everybody has the opportunity to come back home. And more importantly, Wahiga, we have to remember about 40% of the Kenyans in the United States are undocumented. So there's also other challenges of Kenyans not necessarily wanting to come out in the open and access IEBC officials because they might be afraid they might get deported or get into other legal challenges. So I just think the more IEBC engages with diasporans, the more people are able to be encouraged to come out, the more voting centers we have, and the more we use the access of technology to broaden the enfranchisement of the diaspora. I think that will make a huge difference in terms of raising the numbers of Kenyans that are able to vote from the diaspora.
Prof, first of all, I must applaud your commitment to come to Kenya to vote. And I don't know whether in 2017 you voted in the States or you voted here as well. But what are you hearing from Kenyans back in the States? I know they had limited options in terms of where they could go to vote. Obviously, they could only vote for the presidential, in the presidential race. And what are they telling you?
Yes. So the voter turnout for the registration was not that great. So obviously, we have about, in the United States, close to 200,000 Kenyans. I believe we had, a fairly low turnout in terms of people actually coming to register to vote. I believe the number was less than 2,000. And I think part of the challenge with that, Wahiga, is we quintessentially have only 3 voting centers. This is the consulate offices in New York and in Los Angeles, and then obviously the embassy in DC. Now, if you consider that the United States is 17 times the size of Kenya, so if you're going to move, for example, from New York to say, Los Angeles, it's like going from Nairobi to Morocco or from Mombasa to Lagos in terms of the distance. It's a huge distance. So when the IEBC came for just 2 weeks to register people, it's very difficult to tell someone to move from Texas, which would be the equivalent of moving from Kinshasa, to come all the way to Mombasa to register. and then you have to again come back to vote, right? So, and when you consider people have children, people have work engagements, as I'd mentioned before, there's people who have paper issues and I just have challenges about coming out, that anxiety. I think it's really something we need to think closely about.
Prof, I'm going to engage another Kenyan in the diaspora shortly, but tell me, roughly, how many Kenyans do you think now live in the States?
This is a good question. We don't know. Officially, there's numbers as high as 500,000 and others as low as 100,000. And we did a mapping program with the Kenyan embassy and the government some years ago about trying to figure out exactly how many Kenyans are in the state. And the numbers which we gave them, just haven't been worked on to this point. And unless you really know how many Kenyans are in the United States, it's difficult to create the infrastructure to reach these people. So I'm hoping that going forward, we're able to actually identify where these Kenyans are and how we can reach them. But I have to emphasize in conclusion that we have the technology that is foolproof and cannot be tampered with, not only to register voters, but to ensure safe voting for all diasporans. Countries like Estonia do this, countries like India do this, and it's a very safe space.
Okay.
And the number of diasporans is not that large, right? So it's not like you're dealing with 50 million Kenyans. You're really dealing with a fairly small number of people that you can regulate efficiently with technology. So I think that's something we really need to think about investing in, because we need to expand the number of Kenyans that we bring on board to vote.
Well, Prof, you've raised some very interesting points there. I hope the IEBC is listening. I know the diaspora conversation has been a big one.